another funny thing you said is that we can't really rank these teams. It's funny because when they lose, they all lose together.
Yeah.
The Diamondbacks win, and you would think that that would have allowed them to create not only the distance that they created by leapfrogging the Cubs, but you would have thought that that would have been able to put some distance between them and some of those other teams. But no.
Then
Instead,
the Marlins want to go.
The Reds beat
the Braves.
Yeah, the Reds beat the Mets in their series. The Marlins kick the damn Braves' ass. But you know what? Just because you said it, let's go ahead and try to rank those teams anyway. Let's just do this. Let's try to figure out who of these teams are, I guess, the biggest danger, including the Arizona Diamondbacks. We don't want to include the Phillies here because I feel like the Phillies are kind of.
The Phillies are on a different
If the
level.
Phillies were included in the ranking, they would just be number 1 across the board.
That
So
would be.
we're just going to skip over the Phillies. So this is a ranking of, in whatever order we have, Reds, Giants, Diamondbacks, Marlins, Cubs.
Okay.
It's those 5 teams.
Do we want to do this backwards? Do we want to start with team 5? Do we want to start with team 1? What do we want to do here? You want to start at the
I don't
top?
know. Sean has tons of experience with this kind of
Sean,
thing.
what do you think?
Our
Yeah.
ASU show is basically just this
Show
is
us
what
how
you
this
guys
works,
do,
Sean.
right?
We don't know.
We usually
we're
are
confused.
drafting. We're not just out here ranking. So this is a little new to me too. Let's let's go work from the bottom up. Let's keep the people body into the.
All right.
Yeah.
So
save the best for last.
So I guess I will start off here with my worst team in the 5-team wildcard race. I'm going to go with the San Francisco Giants.
Shocker.
Yeah, right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants and their pitching staff, it's just hard to imagine that the Giants should rank very high here. And I'm also, yes, I'm very willing to put them down right now, considering that the Diamondbacks have to play them here coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think it is as much of a question. I'm putting the Giants last two. They just, I mean, it's kind of what we've been talking about with them a lot. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as to why they are in this race with everybody else. There's weird magic in San Francisco that causes them to outperform.
They're hanging around.
But I don't think they're really that much of a real threat, and that means we're going to get swept by them.
I don't have many notes written for the Giants. I just have they're screwed. That's all I wrote. That is just straight from my notes app.
They're screwed.
Which admittedly is a very bold thing to say because they're still only 2 games out. And
Yeah.
I mean, anything can really happen, as we talked about yesterday. Like the schedule that you have the rest of the season, like over such a small sample, anything can really happen. But
And the 2 pitchers that we have going against them are like the 2 worst pitchers on the roster, apparently.
yeah,
all of a
Zach
sudden.
Gallen and Merrill Kelly, or the bullpen's great. The 3, 4, 5 starters are great, but Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly just can't pull their weight. I mean, the Giants have 7 of their final 12 games, as we talked about yesterday, against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I know the Dodgers don't have a ton to play for at this point.
The Dodgers are going to lose just to screw over the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I know that, when I was in LA covering the Diamondbacks Dodgers series a couple weeks ago, I was part of a scrum with Dave Roberts at one point, and he was talking about, how the team is going to approach the postseason this year and try to make sure that they don't lose focus. That was kind of the main thing that he talked about. So knowing that and knowing that the Dodgers are, of course, as other teams, like really trying to keep their foot on the gas pedal the rest of the way. And they're going to have a little bit of a layoff going into the postseason, but they're going to try to stay focused. As Dave Roberts said, I don't think they're the kind of team that's going to sit all their players and, just kind of roll over for the next 2 weeks. So I think the Giants have a very difficult road ahead, and yeah, they're my number 5 team as well.
That was a very long-winded way to get around to that, but I appreciate that.
Well, especially
I
when
wish
his
you would have
notes were
stuck with
just,
they're screwed. Yeah, we should have just stuck with they're screwed.
I thought it was a foregone conclusion that the Giants were my number 5.
It was very eloquently put, though. Team 4 for me, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say the Chicago Cubs.
Wow.
I know. I'm terrible. I'm a bad human being. But after watching the Diamondbacks sweep them, I'm going to say the Chicago Cubs. I'm going to say they had a good run, but I just don't know if the Cubs have it in them. I don't know if the Cubs have it in them to overcome this traumatic loss, this series sweep to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I'm going to put the Cubs there at 4.
I am inclined to put the Cincinnati Reds here. They're another team that I just don't really believe in. I don't believe in their pitching. I think they're a little too young to really be that big of a threat in the postseason.
That's a great point.
Obviously, the D-backs are very young too, but they have, I think, a few more obviously a few more like veteran pieces. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of the Cincinnati Reds too, but I just really don't believe in that team all that much. I mean, they're similar to the Diamondbacks in that like this season is an overachievement. I don't think anyone realistically expected, and they obviously came down to earth a little bit more after the Elly De La Cruz kind of run they went on there. But I'm not really bought in on the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, this was really tough for me too. I think the number 5 with the Giants, I mean, that was pretty clear, I think. But yeah, this one was tough. I also have the Cincinnati Reds here. But I mean, I almost had the Cincinnati Reds at number 1. Like that. Like this is how close.
I think after the Giants, it's like you could make the argument for anybody being in any of the other 4 spots.
You absolutely could. But yeah, for me, this comes down to I mean, the Reds have the easiest schedule the rest of the way, but that just doesn't necessarily mean all that much, given all the craziness that we've seen in the last few days with great teams getting crushed by bad teams and just all this stuff. So it just seems to me that the Reds they're not quite the team that they were a few weeks ago when it really seemed like they were coming on strong. Losing Matt McClain, I think, was a huge loss for them. They brought in Harrison Bader. They brought in Hunter Renfroe. They DFA'd Hunter Renfroe today. Harrison Bader hasn't been great for them offensively. So I think they're gonna fall just a little bit short.
Did we luck out at the waiver wire?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could make that case. I mean, the D-backs were never going to take Hunter Renfroe, but
there are a couple of guys that you might be willing to say. I mean, it's not good that they missed out on. You never know how those pitchers and others.
Maybe it's good they missed out on Giolito.
Yeah,
right?
That's who I was alluding to. But, all right. Well, then, for all the reasons you listed, the Reds are my number 3 team. So I'll just say ditto on that. The Reds. I still think, like you said, the Reds have the easy schedule, and that's the one thing that could benefit them. And I mean, these teams all just keep being a brand new team, it feels like, from series to series. So it's really hard to determine how any of these teams really fall, like you said, after the Giants.
The Reds do have the tiebreaker over the Cubs. So that is valid. Putting the Reds over the Cubs does make sense, honestly, like just for that reason with how close things are right now.
I don't know why I want to put the Marlins here. Maybe for the similar reason to the Reds, that they're just the Miami Marlins. But to me, this is a conversation of this is more about, like, I think the D-backs and Cubs are 1 and 2. And so the Marlins are kind of 3 by default.
Sure.
They're good. Obviously, like, them doing what they did against the Braves deserves respect, but like the Diamondbacks also have competed against the Braves this year. The Braves are kind of weird. They've clinched the division at this point. So like, kind of what are they playing for type thing. I don't know how much I believe in the Marlins either. I don't know how much I believe in any of these teams. I guess I should just stop saying how much I believe in them. But I don't. I just am not in there. I'm just not there with the Marlins yet.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely see where you're coming from. I have the Chicago Cubs at number 3. I think, a lot of this comes down to how well are you playing when it matters most. Yeah. And given recent events, the Cubs are just a really hard team to bet on right now. And I say that knowing that on paper, I probably like the Cubs roster more than I like the roster of any of these other teams. But, I mean, they've got the big run differential. Like, there's a lot of evidence that the Cubs are the best team on this list, but they're not hot right now. I mean, they are as far from that as you could possibly be, I think, at this stage in the season when it really matters. And that's not to say they couldn't figure things out and they couldn't come around. But after what we saw over the weekend, after, their series with the Rockies, I can't put the Cubs any higher than number 3 at this point. And I knew that if I put the Cubs over the Diamondbacks, I would just get absolutely crucified for that decision. So, and I think that's valid too. I mean, the Diamondbacks have the tiebreaker over the Cubs at this point, and when you go 6-1 against a team head to head, I think there's some good evidence there that you might be the better team at least in a sense.
That's the tough thing about this is, like, I think like you said, you look at their roster and you can easily make the argument that the Cubs are better than the Diamondbacks, but look what the Diamondbacks did against the Cubs. And I think you could do the same thing with the Diamondbacks over the Reds, but like Diamondbacks haven't had a good time with the Reds this year. So it's like all of these teams have a weird number over another team on it, and they're probably not actually better than, but They just have that team's number. Baseball's weird, man. It's just kind of.
I think Elise has a point here. They clinched the division and they had an off night in Miami.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. But like I said, I don't know how much they had to play for.
She's right.
Ronald Acuna was probably getting it in down in South Beach.
Yeah.
Weren't we saying,
not literally?
Weren't we hypothesizing yesterday that Elise was actually Alex Anthopoulos?
Yes.
So this is just Elise making excuses
is just
for her own
that
players.
She's a Major League Baseball GM.
I mean,
that right through your facade, Elise.
She has better information than anybody.
She really does.
Yeah.
She really does. She should be
fair.
on this show. My number 2 team is the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Boo.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing it. There's a good reason though why, and I think that honestly the Arizona Diamondbacks right now, nope, small b, there we go. I gotta make sure we keep this what is it, AP correct or whatever. The Diamondbacks are just playing really good baseball right now, and I mean they were able to overcome what probably would have been some pretty bad starts from the 3 pitchers we were worried about pitching in this Cubs series. Torey Lovullo managed his way around that. The bullpen has looked excellent. And I mean, they were just able to find ways to win games, especially that 13 inning, extra inning game really changed my opinion about this team and their ability to fight right now. I don't really know if we would have seen this same fight from them at certain points of the season, but man, it really feels like this team is adhering to Torey Lovullo's request of giving him everything for the next 14 days. And the result was that, was that win. So,
yeah, I mean, we kind of already talked about it for all the I think on paper, the Cubs have a better roster. They have a better team. The idea of Marcus Stroman coming out of the bullpen is bullshit. Terrifying to me.
It's ridiculous. It's
such
absurd.
Bullshit. But I can't realistically put the Cubs above the D-backs when the D-backs own the Cubs. So I have to put the Cubs at 2. I know that this is making me look like a homer, but like I said, I think it's a complete toss-up with all the teams 1 through 4, and this ultimately just comes down to, like Jesse was saying, who's playing better right now, and obviously, specifically, the Cubs just play the D-backs, and the D-backs had their number, so I'm putting the Cubs 2.
I think also like the Diamondbacks at this point have a better record than all of these other teams.
That's also true. They also
factors into that. So I mean, if you just sort of put the Diamondbacks number 1 for that reason alone, that's honestly pretty valid.
Did I just go with standings on mine? I think I might have.
Yeah, I think you did.
I guess the numbers don't lie, baby.
Real creative, Sean.
The numbers never lie.
Very creative, Sean.
I did, yeah. So, yep.
That's
Arizona,
Sean,
Chicago, Miami, Cincinnati, San Francisco. I honestly didn't realize that.
told Sean to rank the 5 wildcard contenders out of the Phillies. He looked up the standings and was like, all right, done.
He's right.
No, it's nice, Sean. We see how much you care about this show.
Hey, what Chris said. Sean is right. Hashtag get it trending. Hashtag Sean is right.
All right. I've got the Diamondbacks as my number 2 team as well. Which I guess, yeah, obviously I've got the Marlins then at number 1. The Marlins are just, I mean, what they did this weekend against the Atlanta Braves was inexplicable.
36 runs
36
in 3
runs.
games.
And that's the thing, is if the Marlins had beat the Braves, if the Marlins had swept the Braves after the Braves clinched and, they did it, scoring 4 or 5 runs a game every day.
5-1.
Fine, whatever. But the reason that the Marlins haven't been that great this year, for the most part, is because their offense is just not very good. And that has very much changed in the last couple of weeks. The Marlins are all of a sudden scoring crazy amounts of runs. And if you look at the roster, I mean, you can kind of understand why. There's some decent hitters on this team, right? Jazz Chisholm is back now. He's been injured for a good portion of the season. I believe he had 2 grand slams over the weekend in that series against the Braves. Luis Arraez, his batting average had dipped all the way to like 340, which was shameful, but now it's back up to 350. So things are looking better for him.
Dipped all the way to 340. What a bomb.
What a bum.
I mean, it is crazy. Like in the first half of the season, the Luis Arraez rode to 400. I mean, that was a pretty big thing for a while there. But Nick Fortes, catcher for them, has been hitting really well. As also Jake Berger, who we've talked about a lot, coming over from the White Sox.
National Burger Day.
Is today National Burger Day?
Yeah,
today is National Cheeseburger Day.
I think you get a free. There's all kinds of special deals
on apps and everything. Yeah, you get 50-cent
cheeseburgers
from
McDonald's.
McDonald's.
Might be like Mickey D's Day, Jesse.
Yeah, might be one of those.
This is
days,
my day, by the way.
Yeah, but yes, Jesse and I both have the Marlins at number 1. The other important thing about the Marlins is they do hold the tiebreaker over the Chicago Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they actually did not lose a tiebreaker to any of the other teams. The other teams in the race, they have split the season series with the Giants. They are 3-3. The Reds. They're 3-3, and everybody else.
Similar to the Diamondbacks, the Marlins definitely feel like a massive benefactor of the new schedule this year, not having to play that division as often as they normally would have had to. I think definitely. Although that being said, they obviously just handled divisional opponent the Braves, but I think by and large,
the East isn't that crazy of a division.
Well, I mean, they've got 2 teams above them in the
he's
playoffs.
not wrong, Jesse. They are 11-2 against the Washington Nationals. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So, but that's kind of it goes against my argument.
Yeah, that would mean you'd want to play more games against the NL.
No, I'm sorry.
Obviously, every team has that. We have the Rockies, but we also have the Dodgers. They have the Braves. I think the Phillies are a decent amount better than the Giants.
The Nats were hot,
the Nats were hot. The Nats were in the. I mean, they were playing better than the Yankees for a lot of the year. Unnecessary shot at the Yankees.
It's fine. Well, we figured that was going to go.
Yeah, but I mean, I have the Diamondbacks as my top team.
Yeah.
I just think between the bullpen pitching well, the fact that as of right now, it seems like the biggest question mark are their 2 best pitchers, which seems like the most likely thing for them to kind of be able to bounce back from is if you're asking me to bet on Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly figuring it out versus them sucking for the rest of the season, I'm going to bet on them figuring it out. Yeah. I mean, when you have I really think like the addition of a guy like Tommy Pham, like I know this was a joke for me for a while, but I feel like if teams want to be good, you do need that guy who feels like he can just show up and win a World Series MVP or a playoff MVP type thing. And like it just seems like they have those extra guys who can, if Lourdes has a good day or if Tommy has a good day, then like they become a very hard team to beat. On top of if their normal suspects are performing, and like this is on top of Christian Walker not necessarily being Christian Walker as of late, things like that. I mean I just love this Diamondbacks team. I love Gabby Moreno, Mr. Diamondback. I just this team just seems like kind of like they want it more than anybody else right now.
I think what you said about Gallen and Merrill is big because the Diamondbacks have. There's 11. I think we decided it's 11 games left, right? Yeah, 11 games left, and I believe 6 of those are going to be started by Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen. So you have the majority of your games the rest of the way, in the hands of one of your top 2 starting pitchers. That's a pretty good place for the Diamondbacks to be. I obviously, as we said earlier, I have the Marlins as my number 1 team, and that honestly is primarily because the Marlins have the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks, and those teams are half a game apart in the standings right now. Yep. But
they're 10-5 this month as well.
Yeah, there are valid reasons I think to go with either team. But I mean it is a little crazy that with this new playoff format where we don't have a game 163 to determine tiebreakers. I mean, those Diamondbacks Marlins games were played in April and May.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't even remotely on the radar back then that the outcome of those games could determine whether the Diamondbacks make the playoffs or not. But that's the reality of the situation. It is not all that unlikely that the Diamondbacks and Marlins finish tied in the standings. If that happens, that's what it's going to come down to.
I miss 163. I like that more.
I get that. It's just tough when you have when you add this additional layer to the first round because we only have so much time for all.
No,
these games.
I understand why they don't, but I would rather a game decide it.
Padres and the Rockies play like a game 163 that ended in a walk-off in 2008 or something like that, and it was just absolutely electric. I mean, that's.
Could you imagine Gabby walk-off in game
insane.
163?
Yeah, it would
Mr.
be the coolest thing
Diamondback.
ever.
Daddy
There is
Diamondback.
something special about a 1-game playoff, and I know they decided they didn't want that in the wild card round, which I think was valid. But if it's being used as a tiebreaker for the 162 game season, I think that was the one acceptable.
Yes.
We can stomach a 1-game playoff for that. And you're right, we no longer have that as a result of the new system.
Although it's easy for me to say that now. But if we're playing game 163 against the Marlins and we throw Zach Gallen out there and then he gets rocked, I'm gonna be like, this is bullshit. Why is it coming down to
it's stupid. It's
stupid.
pitchers can
One
have a
game,
bad
one
day
game.
at any point. It's bullshit that we have to. Gallen has one bad day and now we're out of the playoffs.
Yep.
But
yeah, that's not at all unhinged at all. But I'm with you on that.
Should we summarize our top 5 list real quick? Just if people are listening, I feel like it's probably hard to keep track.
Yeah.
So mine was, I have Giants 5, Reds 4, Cubs 3, Diamondbacks 2, and Marlins 1.
Yeah, I had D-backs, Cubs, Marlins, Reds, Giants. May or may not be the exact order of the standings.
And then I had Marlins, D-backs, Reds, Cubs, Giants. Jesse and I had everything that's the same except the Reds and the Cubs there flipped. So stop copying off of me, Jesse.